If you've noticed you've got a slow leak in your cooling system and the level in the expansion bottle keeps dropping and you have to keep topping it up every now and then, here's what may be the quickest, simplest and cheapest fix. There you go. Now you're probably thinking, hey, what? That's not going to fix anything. But I'm going to show you why that may work in some circumstances. Okay, so I've loosened the cap on the top of the expansion bottle. So how might that work? Well, although it may be an elaborate shape, in reality the cooling system is effectively a container, like this, let's say. Now, with a water level somewhere. Now, every time the engine heats up, then a little bit, in an open container, every time the container or the engine heats up, some of it will evaporate and gradually you'll lose it over time. And so that's why normally cooling systems have a cap screwed on, which is pressurized, so that means that every time you heat up you switch on the engine, it gets warm, you don't lose coolant or antifreeze. But let's supposing that you've got a slight leak somewhere below the water level. What happens when you heat up the engine? Well, the liquid expands and so does the air above it in the expansion bottle, and so that tends to force some of the coolant out, and that's why you lose some. Now, when the engine cools down and the coolant shrinks and so does that then sucks air back in, these bubbles. So now the overall level of coolant has gone down slightly, and every time you heat up the engine and cool it down, you lose a little bit of more coolant through this cycle. So let's consider for a moment the places where you might have a leak in the cooling system. So if you've got your engine block there, let's say, okay, not a very good engine block, and you've got the gasket somewhere along there. So you've got the water pump, let's say that's here, that's got some seals in it. You've got the tubes, you've got the pipes going to the radiator. So there are several places you could have leaks, either in the radiator, the hoses, the water pump. You might also have a leak in the gasket, head gasket, which usually will mean water will be leaking into the oil somewhere, sometimes. That is bad news, and you can tell that normally because you'll have this white mayonnaise stuff on the dipstick or under the oil filler cap. That's a serious problem, and that you really need to get that looked at urgently. You may also have an oil to water heat exchanger somewhere in here as well, to keep the oil temperature regular. So if we consider for a moment, say, the pump or the hoses or the radiator. Now the pump has got seals, and over time these will eventually age. Now, because the system when it's hot becomes pressurized, as the seals on the pump age, that will sometimes start leaking under pressure when it wouldn't have been leaking when it's not under pressure. So in those circumstances, unscrewing the expansion bottle cap so that the system is no longer pressurized when it's hot may make enough of a difference to stop it leaking around the pump. And on my car that you showed, that certainly completely stopped all the leaks, just undoing the expansion bottle cap. Similarly with the hoses, if you've got a slight leak in a hose, it might only show up under pressure when the system's hot. And again, unscrewing the expansion bottle cap may stop it leaking under the hose. If you've got a leak in a metal component, such as a radiator, then it's probably not going to stop the leak completely, and it may even continue to leak even when the engine's not running, because air can get in and it will may still be able to find its way out of the leak. But when the engine is running, and if it does heat up and cool down frequently, then removing this can reduce the amount of leakage. Or if you find a leak when you're going along and the low water level alarm comes on, or it starts steaming, and then in fact if there is a leak, you'll find that the system is probably not already pressurised, and as long as you use a big cloth or something like that, it will be safe to very slowly remove or undo the cap even if the engine's hot. But it can certainly reduce the water loss from a hot engine. So that's the reason why unscrewing the cap can reduce and even temporarily stop a leakage if it's from, say, pump seals or from the hoses. It can certainly mean that you can go a lot longer before you have to actually get the item repaired properly. Now what you may find though is that the level is still going down very, very slightly, but that may be just from evaporation. Now normally in a cooling system you've got two fluids, you've got water and you've got the antifreeze component. Now the antifreeze component boils at a higher temperature than water. So what may happen, now here's what happens if you've got two miscible liquids mixed together that have different boiling points. If we draw a graph of what happens, say this is time, that's time, and this is temperature, and we start heating the liquid that's got two liquids together. For example, you can do this if you mix, say, alcohol and water. What tends to happen is let's say we've got, that's the boiling point of water, which is 100 degrees, and we've got alcohol. I've forgotten what temperature ethanol boils at, but what will happen is the temperature will rise until it reaches the boiling point of ethanol, and then it will stay at that temperature until the ethanol has evaporated, and then the temperature will keep rising until it reaches the boiling point of water. If you've got normal proper antifreeze in the car, it's the other way around. It will be the water that evaporates first. So that means that if you sufficiently stop the leak by undoing the expansion cap, then it's most likely to be the water, not the antifreeze, that evaporates. That means that if you do need to top it up, you can top it up with just deionized water and not have to keep topping up the antifreeze bit. And that will be a lot cheaper than to keep topping it up with antifreeze. Does that make sense? So either way, wherever you've got a leak, if you haven't got a leak, then keep the expansion cap on tightly, because that will keep everything in there for longer. But as soon as you've got a leak somewhere below the waterline, it's generally a good idea to undo that expansion cap, and that will make everything last longer, basically. There is only one other thing to consider, and that is the fact that having the expansion cap on to make the system pressurised when it's hot does increase the boiling point of the coolant. But in most circumstances that won't make a difference if you're driving a car in a normal manner. If you're racing around a circuit or something, then it might do, but in normal circumstances that won't make any difference.